Hey guys, welcome to Screenshots. My name is Pedro and I'm here to talk about movies. Today I'm going to talk about the Oscars now. It's right around the corner, it's tonight, and you all know my opinions about who should win what, which movie should win Best Picture, which movie should win Best Director, the actors, all that sort of thing. But there are a couple of films that I didn't review, like Dallas Buyers Club and Her, and there were other films I feel that should have been nominated, but unfortunately weren't, and I think they're possibly even better than any film that was nominated this year. And it was interesting to see why weren't these films nominated. For example, I loved Blue Jasmine. Woody Allen's film is a great film. I really think that Cate Blanchett should win an Oscar for her performance. It should have been nominated for so many other categories, director and picture. Woody Allen does a great job. People even say that it is possibly his best film. I don't agree. I think Annie Hall is his best film, but still, that's something to consider when you got a film like Blue Jasmine. Every critic is hailing it as one of Woody Allen's best films, and it wasn't nominated. There was another film that I really liked this year, which was Before Midnight. The third film in Richard Linklater's trilogy of Before Sunrise and Before Sunset with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. And I actually think that Before Midnight is the best one out of the three. And it wasn't nominated for anything except for Best Screenplay. So why? It's such a great film. It kind of reminded me that old style filmmaking where you just kind of like a theater film that you used to have in the 40s and 50s and stuff, and like 12 Angry Men and even films like The Hustler with Paul Newman, and Before Midnight kind of reminded me of those type of films, because you just see these two people acting out each other, and you got especially in the third part of the film, and I'm not going to spoil it, don't worry, and you've got Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy just having these positive and negative moments in between, and it's so interesting to see all of this flow really well together, and it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. It was kind of a shame, to be honest. You also have a really interesting film, which is Spectacular Now, and it surprised me because normally those type of films don't really get nominated, like 500 Days of Summer, which was actually, the writers of 500 Days of Summer were the same writers in the Spectacular Now, and but the difference is the Spectacular Now is more, it's more mature. It goes to places that 500 Days of Summer actually doesn't, and it was interesting to see these teenagers on screen, and you're watching it as if it were this really adult mature film, and I really like that. And I also think it should deserve some nominations, and it doesn't, and people always say, oh, it's the Oscars, it's always the same thing with the Oscars, why should we even bother knowing what the Oscars nominate and what doesn't, and in a way I do understand those people, because it certainly is a shame when you have so many good quality films and none of them get appreciation, and then the films that do, are they really that good? Is it because of the timing that it comes out? You're very unsure what to think about. But still, it was. You do have some good films this year, and especially the films like Gravity. I think Gravity, on a visual standpoint, was absolutely amazing. It was awesome to watch. You also got films like 12 Years a Slave, which in my opinion isn't as good as Shame, Steve McQueen's previous film, but it was still really good and really dramatic and really involving. However, The Wolf of Wall Street, a film that I really enjoyed, a film that was very comical, and why was it nominated for Best Picture? Is it deserved? I'm not sure if it is, because I think the reason why it was nominated for Best Picture is possibly because of Scorsese, his name being attached to the project. But it's very similar to The King of Comedy and After Hours in terms of comedy, and do those films also deserve Best Picture? It's very subjective to say. Maybe nominated, okay, I understand, but more than that, it's kind of, you just expect so much more out of films that are nominated for Best Picture. You're actually waiting for something to really surprise you and really dazzle you and push the bar in terms of filmmaking. And even though The Wolf of Wall Street was a film that I thought was really enjoyable and refreshing to see Scorsese do a film like that, it's not Taxi Driver, it's not Raging Bull, it's not Goodfellas, it's not The Departed, it's not The Aviator, it's not a film that they would expect to see nominated for Best Picture. American Hustle tries to be something more than it actually is, whereas I don't think The Wolf of Wall Street does that, in my opinion. But there's other films, like Her. I haven't reviewed Her yet, but I also thought it was a very interesting film. You know, when you know Spike Jonze and what he does, you expect him to do that kind of film, and he does, and it was interesting to watch. But does it deserve Best Picture? I feel this year was lacking in terms of great quality and master filmmaking films in the Best Picture category, and there were some, like I mentioned, but they weren't nominated, and it's a shame, to be honest, because I wanted more out of it. I always want more out of films. You know, I actually have this, people say it's kind of pretentious, but I have this opinion that the best filmmaking days died in the 80s, and this is like a big, whoa, what are you talking about? You have so many good films in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, and you're right, there are. But when you watch a film that was done before the 80s, it has this matureness and this way of filmmaking, this dramatic way of filmmaking that you don't necessarily have nowadays, you know. And for example, like in the year where Citizen Kane was made, the film that actually won was How Green Was My Valley, you know, John Ford film, but not a Western. And you're thinking, wait, Citizen Kane is considered to be the best film of all time. Why didn't it win Best Picture? Why did it lose to another film? But when you watch the other film, it's also brilliant film. It's not as good as Citizen Kane, but it's so good, you know. And I don't get that feeling with films nowadays, to be honest. And there are a couple of years where you're like, oh my god, these films are really good, like with Black Swan and The Social Network, but still it's not that good. And this year I feel it was lacking in that sense. But still, you know, films are always enjoyable to watch. You know, you got amazing films in the 80s, entertaining ones like Back to the Future. You also got the Star Wars trilogy, and you got like Once Upon a Time in America, Sergio Leone film, which is very, very, very good film, you know. And many others, you know, like Fight Club in the 90s, and you've got Inglourious Bastards and Pulp Fiction. You know, there's so many great films to watch. So don't get me wrong when I say that filmmaking died in the 80s. I am exaggerating, of course, but I do think that there was a period where it seemed like every year there was like masterpiece filmmaking, and nowadays you don't get that as much. But yeah, we'll see the Oscars. We'll see who wins what, and yeah, those are my opinions.